going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here. This is a League webinar called Stories from the Field, the AARP Bike Audit Toolkit in Action. And we are so excited to have you here today to learn about some really great opportunities and resources for communities. Before we get into that, just a quick housekeeping note. This webinar is being recorded and we will be posting it on the League's YouTube channel as well as our webinars page. Closed captions should be available and you can hide or show them at any time from the bottom of your Zoom menu. And there is a Q&A enabled, so please feel free to type in your questions at any time, and we will have time for those questions at the very end. But feel free to send them as you think of them, and we look forward to responding to those at the end of the webinar. Just a quick note about the League. We are a national nonprofit bike advocacy organization working to improve biking all across the country to create a bicycle-friendly America for everyone. And one of the ways that we do that is through partnerships with organizations like AARP. We developed the Bike Audit Toolkit, which you'll hear about in a few moments, and support communities like the ones that our speakers represent in their efforts to make improvements on the ground. So I'm really excited to introduce our speakers. I'll let each of them give more thorough introductions as they take the stage in a few minutes. But just to show off our great list, we've got Mandala Moya from AARP, Jacqueline at Go Ottawa, Jared from Oaks and Spokes, and Jennifer from Cottonwood, Arizona. And I'm really excited for you to hear from all of them. Mandala will give us an overview of the AARP Community Challenge Grant, which is currently open for applications through March 5th, next Wednesday. And then the other three speakers are all recipients from last year's Community Challenge Grant program through the Bike Audit Capacity Building Microgrants. And we were so excited to work with these three communities and 15 others to do bike audits in their communities and have really cool impacts. And so we're excited to share these three stories in particular. But I will just note that we worked with a total of 18 communities last year, and those communities performed a collective amount of, I think it was just over 95 bike audits through this project. So we're really excited to see applications coming into AARP's Community Challenge Grant, which you'll hear about more from Mandala in just a moment, and to see what kinds of bike audit projects we can support in 2025. So that's a quick snapshot of the agenda. And before I hand it over to Mandala, I just want to give a quick plug for the National Bike Summit, which is coming up in just over a week and a half. And this is our annual conference in Washington, D.C. It's a really great opportunity to learn and connect with peers and to experience really great bike infrastructure in D.C. There's networking opportunities, conference sessions with tons of great professional development opportunities, and a very important lobby day on Capitol Hill to represent your district and your state with your members of Congress. So we encourage you to register if you haven't already and to join us. And at least one of our speakers today will actually be there participating in our poster session. So we're really excited to showcase even more stories through the National Bike Summit and through the League's ongoing webinar series, which is going to kick off in April for 2025. So stay tuned to the League's webinar calendar for more really cool learning opportunities just like today's webinar. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to Mandala Moya with AARP.
Thank you so much, Amelia. We are going to try to, we practice this, guys, so we're not going to, we practice this and it works. So I'm going to try and share my screen, get the slides going. I think I got it right. Do I have it correct, Amelia?
It's in the full PowerPoint, not full. Yep, that's perfect.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Look at that, the magic of technology. Welcome everybody. I am so excited to be here and to join and talk a little bit about ARP and sort of the work that we do. More importantly, the work that we do to support you all and the communities that you serve. I have had the pleasure of being with ARP for a little over 13 years. I served in the Indiana state office, so shout out to anyone who represents an Indiana community. It has a special place in my heart, and the bike community in those communities that I was able to serve in. I'm really passionate about this work, so I know I'm surrounded by folks who are passionate advocates for the work that we're going to sort of talk to you all about, and more importantly, the resource that is the community challenge. And so by way of introduction, I just want to state a little bit of level setting around our goals as the Livable Communities team. Our work seeks to support both local leaders like yourselves and state and federal leaders around sort of how they design their communities for all of us as we age. We all are aging, and therefore we all need to be thinking about how we can sort of support the community, or the people in those communities access their communities. And in this particular instance, we're going to talk more specifically around bicycling and bike and pedestrian work. All of those pieces are important in terms of how we can sort of help older adults or aging people better access and navigate their communities. We know that by 2034, which is not far from where we are now, it is going to reach a point where we have older folks, or folks over 65, more of those folks in the communities that we all live in than under 18. And so time is now for us to sort of be in a position to support support how we can better allow folks to live, work, play, retire in the communities and homes that we all live in. One of the ways and one of the more important tools that we use to fund that change, or to fund those tangible changes, is through our Community Challenge Grant Program. As Amelia mentioned, you'll hear from 3 grantees in terms of how they were able to use that grant to change their communities. We hope the Community Grant Challenge will serve as a seed for you all to sort of make tangible changes within the communities that you serve. And so over the period of time, we've had the opportunity to see long-term change occur within tangible activities and tangible spaces, not only within the bike community, but within walking and pedestrian infrastructure, housing, and public spaces. And so the Community Challenge Grant is our way of saying we think it's important for communities to be funding funding the tangible changes that they want to see in the communities that they serve. And so to give you a quick overview of where the timeline and where we are, we have less than a week. So I think March 5th is actually next to Wednesday. So we have exactly a week. If you have projects that you feel, and I'll go through sort of where our grants lie and sort of what categories we're looking for. But if you feel like you have a grant project that may fit the scope of our Community Challenge Grant, please get your applications in. I know I'm a last minute person, and I know there are a lot of us out there. So March 5th by 5 p.m., not 12:01, not 12:02, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time. We want to make sure we have those applications in. And then the grant application will the grant process will follow the timeline that you all see in front of you. In May, everyone will be notified of their statuses. June will be sort of months for procurement and getting forms completed, public announcements, and then all grants need to be completed by December 5th. And so these have to be grants or grant ideas that you feel can have a quick impact. So you need to be able to at least turn them around between the summer and the fall, the summer and winter. So where are those grant opportunities lie? Where do those grant opportunities lie? In 2025, we'll cover 3 specific areas: our flagship grants, capacity building microgrants, and then the demonstration grants. Our flagship continue to be the successful spaces and places where we launched in 2017. So anything related to public spaces, transportation, housing, digital connection, and then community resilience. All of those are sort of where we've termed our sort of flagship grants. And then we have a opportunity with our demonstration grants. This is a space where we can call it our innovation space. We have opportunities to demonstrate work enhanced in particular by 2 of our key partners, our Toyota Motor North America, and then Microsoft around our internet access and adoption pieces, and then Toyota as well with the pedestrian safety. One of the questions that often come up around the grant, the community challenge grant, is sort of where do the funding numbers lie. A lot of our demonstration grants fall between that 10,000 to 20,000 range, but most of them will not exceed 25,000, and that's within the two grant pieces themselves as well. So the demonstration grants and the flagship grants as well, they will fall within that 10,000 to $25,000 ranges there. But don't let that sort of number or grant sort of totals sort of deter you if you have a project that's $5,000 or a little bit over that $25,000 range. But we want y'all to have a full understanding of our capacity and sort of where we can realistically fund the grant projects. This is where we are. This is where we're most excited because it's what we're here to talk about today. It is our capacity micro building grants, and these are obviously opportunities that are paired with a financial contribution from the Community Challenge Grant. But I think the key and the value comes when we can partner with our partners like the League in terms of how we can best support organizations, nonprofits, and small community leaders better be prepared for disaster, walk audits, and sort of the bike audit toolkits, and then finally the home modification. So each of those capacity building microgrants are paired with a community partner, our bike audit partner, and big shout outs to the League for their work with us over the last couple of years, particularly in developing the bike audit toolkit, which has been an amazing resource for community leaders across the country to use, not only as a tool to sort of gauge where their bicycle infrastructure is, but as a resource to advocate for the change that they want to see within the bike communities that they serve. So we're really excited for that work and that opportunity to partner. And so, as I mentioned, one of the key successes of our partnership outside of the tangible work that we've seen through the Community Challenge projects has been the ability for us to create the Bike Audit Toolkit. You can get your hands on a copy to download or get those copies sent to you by simply visiting www.aarp.org/bikeaudit, and you can download a copy of that toolkit, and you're able to go out and survey the community that you serve. It's absolutely free of charge and something that you can use to, again, change and sort of advocate for infrastructure change and sort of get a sense of where your community is in terms of safety, bikeability, and all of those key pieces that make biking important and fun for all of us. And so I always love to sort of drop in a story from the road, but you all have three great leaders in their own right who are going to share their own story. But our friends at Go Ottawa shared their own, that without these audits, that the group was able to make tangible change within the spaces that they worked in, and it helped them to decide where we can access or where we should access biking safely in Ottawa, Ohio. So really important for folks to hear from the road and hear from folks who are actually out doing this work, and more importantly, how can they apply both the Community Challenge Grant, the Bike Audit Toolkit, and combine those two for change as well. I talked a lot of information and through a lot of pieces at you all today, but in terms of how you can access the Community Challenge Grant, and I'll drop this in the chat as well once I get done, but the AARP.org/community challenge will be your first step in terms of how you can access the grant itself, and more importantly, how you can apply. And so there's an email address there, communitychallenge@aarp.org. You can always subscribe to our newsletter to get information and key resources that you need for you to apply or keep in touch in terms of what resources are available for AARP. And just as a reminder, we do have AARP state offices that are both doing programmatic work and advocacy work around bike bike and pedestrian related activities. And so ARP will consider itself a partner with you as well in the great work that you all are doing in each and every one of the states and communities that you all represent. So thank you for the opportunity for us to share. I will hang around in the chat if there are any questions, but Amelia, I will kick it back to you all.
Awesome, thank you. And I actually beat you to it in putting those links in the chat, but if you want to add more,
Perfect.
feel free. That's great. And I do want to emphasize to folks that in addition to being an online resource, you can order printed copies, just like Mandala said. So it's a beautiful printed booklet that you can get multiple copies of for free. And then there's a lot of worksheets, which I already have on a clipboard in my office, that you can print out at home or in your office. And yeah, really, really fantastic tool. So emphasizing, even if you don't end up applying for this grant opportunity, use the Bike Audit Toolkit. Great, thank you, Mandala. And yeah, we'll keep an eye on the Q&A for questions and stay tuned for us to address those at the end.
Thanks.
Perfect, thanks, Mandala. So now we're actually going to hear from Go Ottawa, Jacqueline, who's the Executive Director of Go Ottawa. I'm going to invite you to come on screen and share your slides. Thanks, Jacqueline.
Hello. All right, give me a second here to get this going. All right, am I sharing okay?
Yeah, it's not in. Oh, yep, perfect.
All right, so yes, I'm Jacqueline Langhouse from Go Ottawa. So we are a small community in Northwest Ohio. And we were one of the fortunate recipients last year to receive this grant. We partnered with our local health department to pursue this grant because this goes along with some of the active lifestyle pursuits that they have as part of their community improvement plan. So to kind of give a little bit of context on why we pursued this grant in the first place, our village had recently completed a strategic planning process in 2022, and part of that, they came up with 4 different themes of what we want to try to do to revitalize our downtown and to grow our community. And one of those 4 main themes was to improve, to build safe bicycle and pedestrian connections through our schools. So we were kind of looking, what can we do to start, making that a reality? What are the first sort of strategies that we can start to look at our infrastructure and look at our intersections? And one of the things that was also called out in that strategic plan was to get a bike path that went from the west side of town to the east side of town, and then eventually also from the north to south parts of town. And to kind of give you a little bit of the idea of scale, so that's a map of our town. So we're approximately 4 square miles. So from west to east, it's a 2-mile bike ride. So we're pretty small. We don't have a large biking community, but that is something that we would like to grow. We do have, some avid bikers in the community that we were fortunate enough to get involved in all of this with us. And I do see one of them as a participant on the call. So I'm really glad to see you on here, Barney. So the first thing we did in the process was to, talk about where we wanted to do these audits. And so being a small community, we knew some of those people that were biking in the community. So we invited them to come to this meeting. And then also we invited a lot of our stakeholders, like some of our senior living facilities, some of those leaders of those facilities. We invited our library, our YMCA, somebody from our park board, our village. So we kind of had a good showing of several community stakeholders for this. And we talked about our strategic plan. We went through the bike audit toolkit, the first couple parts of it. And then we just kind of picked on a map where we felt like the best locations were. So those locations ended up being, a lot of them were on the paths that, we talked about for the potential bike paths, but then some of them were also just intersections that we kind of inherently knew were dangerous and we don't feel comfortable biking or walking at those intersections. And then one of the intersections was an intersection that, we never would have foreseen doing an audit there, except some of the people in the community that are biking a lot. They know that intersection, that there was recently, in the last couple of years, there was an accident at that intersection. So that was another one that we added on to that. And so we did a total of 5 different locations over a total of 7 time periods of audits. 6 of those were off the bike audit. So that was, we were standing at the intersection and we were assessing, going through the checklist that Amelia showed on the screen before. And then one of them was a riding audit. And so that one was the one where we want to eventually have a bike path. So we felt like that was a very good calling to do an actual riding on the path audit. So this isn't exactly what our final report looked like, but this is kind of an idea of how we formed the final aspects of this project. So this is just one of the locations. This is called Putnam Parkway. So on the north end of our community, we have one street that is kind of bottleneck between 2 highways, but it has a lot of our services. So we have our library, our county library, and then our county educational services center on the north side of the street. And then on the south side, we have our senior living facility, we have our elementary school, and the YMCA. So we felt like that was a very important intersection to assess because of all of those services that are on that road. And on our strategic plan, that's where we eventually want to pull in from the north side to connect into that east-west trail. So on the bottom, it's my left, I'm assuming it's your guys' left as well. That was kind of the format that we took after, our piles of notes that we took in the field. Was we broke it down by what was our observation, what exactly did we see, what is the suggested improvement that we wanted to bring to the village. And a lot of those, was either based on our own knowledge or looking at the bike audit toolkit of suggestions and things that they had within that. And then the last column was breaking it down, whether that was a short-term, medium-term, or long-term, just to kind of give us an idea of, okay, how can we start to place these in the context of the timeline? What are quick action things that it's, trimming some bushes around a corner so we have a better line of sight turning? Or where are things that we need to look for funding for in the next, 2 to 3 years to get larger infrastructure improvements. And one of the parts of this particular location that we realized, and I'm sure we had inherently known it, but never necessarily called it out, was that, we have these the library and the educational services center on the north side of the road. But on the south side, we have all those people wanting to access those. And we didn't have any crosswalks to cross that road. So that I think that is one of the things, and I'll talk about it at the end, that we are really trying to actively pursue is remedying that. The other audit location, just to talk about the riding audit. So this was along that 2nd Street pathway that went from the west end of town to the east end of town. And the way we did that, it was a mom and her 2 young kids rode it with me. And we just kind of rode along 2nd Street and had a couple little pit stops where we discussed things. And then at the end, we went through those checklists and went over all the different aspects of the ride. And there were, and so where the other one, we were seeing an observation, suggesting an improvement, and it was an existing condition. In this case, we were thinking more hypothetically, if we had a trail here, what would this do? One of the things that came from it was, if this becomes a trail, there was going to be an immediate stop at a highway, that we would need some sort of signalized crossing that we felt was going to be not a great aspect to the trail, because you're stopping right away. It's a busy intersection. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel comfortable. So we actually talked about going under the overpass. And that is something that we actually put into place when we went through designing what this trail could look like. So then talking next steps and what we've been doing with the audit since then. So one thing is that we presented this to the group. So that was, the volunteers and a lot of those stakeholders that were in the original part of that initial kickoff meeting. And we found that, okay, this is great to have a report, but we need to keep everybody engaged. So we've created a task force. We started to look at different grants that we could pursue. And then, most recently, Barney, who's on the call with myself, we went to a nearby community that has really been successful in getting a lot of bike paths. And we're trying to figure out how we go from this volunteer group that was a part of a grant to a more formalized group that can start to attack all of these different suggested improvements that we have from the report. And then also we've applied for almost 4 grants so far. We use the bike audit from 2nd Street to inform an engineer of what we thought that path should look like. And we were able to apply for an Ohio TAP grant to hopefully get that path to become a reality. So hopefully we'll find out in the next couple months whether we were fortunate enough to do that. But one of the things I think with this grant, it was I'm going to assume to them it makes our grant more attractive, knowing that we did these audits and we have this report where we've assessed these intersections and really taken a deep look at this before we submitted this application. And then we applied for a couple other grants around adding some bike racks and getting a bicycle friendly business program started. We didn't get one of those, but it doesn't mean that we still won't pursue that as a program and an initiative. And then we're applying again for the community challenge grant, one of the demonstration ones this time, because we really want to pursue getting that crosswalk that I talked about at Putnam Parkway. So I think, with all of these grants and these things that we're looking at, we really want to be able to take this report and make it something that the community sees that we're taking these findings and we are getting some quick action from them, and it's not a report sitting on a table, but it's something that's guiding us towards action. So that is all I have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was excellent, and always love hearing about that project. So thank you, Jacqueline. Really appreciate it. And
thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, next I'm going to invite Jared Harbor from Oaks and Spokes in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Jared, I can share my screen for you. Would you like me? Okay, cool.
Yes, please.
Take it away.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Jared. I am the Executive Director of Oaks and Spokes, which is based in Raleigh, North Carolina. Raleigh is the capital city of North Carolina. And we are an active transportation advocacy organization. And we've been doing this since incorporated since 2016. We actually were voted Club of the Year by the League in 2021. Really excited to share our audit report with everyone who's interested in possibly doing this in the future. Amelia, you can go ahead and go up a couple of slides to our Brookside one. So a little bit of background on us choosing bike audits, which we also did walk audits as well. Since we were out there, we figured we might as well do both. We chose to do this because one of the biggest ways or biggest avenues for us to do advocacy work is audits. And, we get asked by several people over the course of the year that they want to get involved. They want to help, change the city as a whole, but also, their immediate community on being more bikeable or more walkable, and how can they get involved. And audits are a great way to bring volunteers and people together, because it's a great opportunity to assess a corridor or an intersection, or if you have the time, an entire neighborhood, or it's also a great way to educate people who want to know what to look for and to better understand the conditions of the roads that they use or the sidewalks that they use. Can you go forward at least one more or two more? Yeah. So one of the corridors we worked on is was about a 1 mile road, neighborhood road that's right next to goes through mostly residential that's have a small amount of commercial and warehouse industrial, as well as an elementary school. This elementary school in particular, which is one of the main reasons why we considered this corridor, is because it is one of the um, has the largest amount of parents who bike their kids to school, but there is no bike lane on this road. So going out there, we did a bike ride, went up and down the corridor, assessed everything, took photos, and I definitely recommend taking photos, taking videos, using the AARP worksheet, which is a great way to kind of help guide you. If you've never done an audit before and this is something you're considering, the worksheets are absolutely amazing. They cover every possible way to assess a corridor. If you go up one more, and you can also see our walking conditions as well, and you can kind of, I think I would recommend parking it for an hour or two and really sort of counting and observing and making notes, because what we've found when working with the city and our city leadership is that data is the key to success to any sort of or changing how your streets look. So really sort of actually counting people and observing traffic is a huge thing. So in this particular one, we observed 22 cyclists in like a 2-hour span, 68 pedestrians, and 2 scooters. So people are using this road. It's a 1 mile road in ways other than the car. So yeah, I think it's really important to think about these sorts of things if you're considering it, but it's also a great way to kind of engage the community. If you go up to the next one for me, please. So this next audit that we did is on a road just outside of our downtown area. Um, and it is a road that is going to see a lot of new development. And it is a great example of how city planning reviews for new developments really can affect how a neighborhood becomes more bikeable and more walkable. So on this road, there's a lot of disconnected sidewalks. There's no bike lane. There's a turn lane that goes the entire span of the road, even in areas where there's no need for a turn lane. And then there's also a lot of heavy trucks because of a nearby recycling center. So I think when you do these sorts of things, it's just every little detail you can observe and make note of is really important to get that, as I mentioned, to get that quantitative data. But one thing that is also important that audits can really help with is qualitative data. So as you can see here, this is part of the walking audit, which follows a lot of the same guidelines as the biking audit. And we had a couple of high school volunteers help us out with this, but we have some sidewalks, and then the sidewalk dumps you out into a road and you have to walk into oncoming traffic. Interestingly enough, I for this particular audit, I had the idea, since it's a little easier to do this while walking than it is biking, but I decided to use Instagram Live while we were doing this. And as we were walking, I was just kind of, filming, for lack of a better word, the on location of the audit as we were walking the corridor. And sure enough, one of our city councilors tapped into the live feed and sent me a message and wanted to know where this was. And then as a result, we have an opportunity to now take city leadership on our own biking and walking audit to show them firsthand those conditions, because our city is a growing city. It's a sprawling city, and they can't, you know, our elected officials they represent very large districts, but sometimes they don't necessarily see every corner. So, you know, getting that information in front of your elected officials is really important. So, and also a great thing, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, was audits are an opportunity to work with all sorts of partners. You can work with other organizations. So for our Garner Road audit, we worked with a organization that works with the immediate community in that area. You can work with high schoolers. You can work with you know, legacy residents. You can tap in your local AARP and work with neighborhoods. And it's a great way to kind of bring people together and show them how they can advocate for change. So that's one thing that I think is really important to consider if you are considering a biking and walking audit. And another thing is we also have, if you can scroll up, we have North Carolina State University in our backyard as well. And so we worked with, I don't have all the presentations with this, but we worked with a professor who volunteers with our organization, and he piloted a new class called Cycling Cities. And so we worked with the entire class for the fall semester last year, and they did 5 separate audits around the university. And you know, a few of them, all of them walk, of course, because it's university, but only a few of them bike. And they did biking audits, and you know, there was a couple of students who admitted at the end of the class in their final presentations that they have a new level of empathy for people on bikes in the road, which is a huge win. So, you know, anytime you can kind of get people involved in this that might not necessarily be bikers or be, you know, walkers, you know, but are interested in making their community a little bit more livable, is a great opportunity to do so. And audits are an absolutely wonderful way to do that. So, and yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jared. Yeah, I especially love this project for all the partnerships that were involved. So I scrolled down to your last page. And yeah, I just want to emphasize that the visuals that we were showing during this were the actual audit report that Jared's group created at the end of the grant period. So this is the kind of thing that you can create with your organization with the Community Challenge Grant Program. So thanks so much again, Jared, for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, we have Jennifer Mabry joining us from Arizona. And Jennifer, I will let you share your screen and take the floor.
Hey, how's that, Amelia?
Perfect. Thanks.
Oh, it's so good. I love it when it works. Thank you. Thanks. It's so weird being called Jennifer. I got to change my name. Call me Jen. I'm from Cottonwood, Arizona, and I work with Yavapai County Community Health Services. I'm a community health education coordinator here. And what's so cool about what we get to do, I work directly in active living and healthy lifestyle. And so our BAC, our Bicycle Advisory Committee, is written into our goals under our SNAP education grant. And we have a really cool group of folks at the table with the BAC and stakeholders there that work with us to do this fantastic audit. And big thanks to AARP and Amelia and Lee. You guys are excellent support for us. So thank you. And for those of you that don't know where Cottonwood is, many of you know where Sedona, Arizona is, Red Rock Country. So we're about 15 minutes shy of that, to give you an idea on the map. Let me get to the second. There we go. So with the BAC, we have really great partnerships sitting at the table when we submitted for this AARP challenge, capacity building challenge. We have such wonderful members in the community, plus partners from our city of Cottonwood, town of Clarkdale, and the like, and other clubs out there. Our area is rural, and we have quite a few high demographic of age 50 and plus, and several organizations and clubs that are out there riding and whatnot. So we came to the table and helped kind of look at our area with our city engineer and planners to decide what we wanted to do and tackle for our bike audit. And what we ultimately came up with, 13 locations, guys. And that was, I don't think we planned for that many, but Cottonwood and Clarkdale connect so well together. We really needed to go to certain areas and see all of this at intersections and places like that, roundabouts and stuff that connect to our communities. So 13 locations was quite a feat for us, but we were so fortunate. We pulled from all of our BAC members. We included a local hiking club and some of my personal staff at Community Health. So what we did was we took and assigned a location to an individual. We said, here's your location, here's your binder, and we loved the toolkit. The toolkit was so helpful for us, with what forms we use. Some of them did riding audits on their bikes. Others, we staked out that corner and watched and counted and wrote several notes on what we were doing. So folks had parameters where they took the site and they had 3 months, twice a month, 2 different times of the day in the month. And that was the parameter. But if they wanted to do more, fantastic. We were like, go for it. Give us everything you got. So it really was cool to see everyone take such ownership. And then I was kind of the main hub and helped provide people with things or answer any questions as like a home base, and then the BAC meetings as a whole on how progress was going. So that was a really, really cool way to distribute the work with everybody and really have our community take it on. I just wanted to show you kind of the things that we measured. And this is some of the stuff that we pulled right out of our report, which I'll show you in a second. But we wanted to measure, obviously, several things. How are they biking? Where are they biking? And these are great photos from some of the locations. And that little gal on the trike, I just love watching her, and I'm always so scared for her. And she's probably, I don't know, she's close to 90, but she is still out there going. And we wanted to capture which way are they going, the same way as traffic, opposite, are they with kids, packages, because we have retail areas and stores all over the place. Were they biking in the street, sidewalks, or actually in a lane or a path? So we tried to really capture as much detail on that as possible, and encourage all the photo takings, like everyone else was mentioning, which is really helpful when you're talking to your local leaders and other and help get things done. Of course, how they were biking, are they going the same way as traffic, opposite of traffic, all of those things. Destinations, we tried to guess on this the best that we could, because we do have library, retail in certain areas of the town and city. So we tried to see what we thought folks were going, and based on what they were carrying and traveling and whatnot, those items. So we also wanted to measure why they were biking, if it was for real transportation or recreation. And it was very easy. It's easy for us to determine what we thought was recreation and transportation by simply looking at what the person was wearing, on a casual ride or dressed to the nines with their spandex or whatnot, or in a group. And a lot of people, this was really cool because it was almost half rec and half transportation. And there's a lot of our basic transportation folks that are just trying to survive out there. getting from point A to point B, and their point A to point B can look a little wonky because they're trying to be safe. And in reality, it's not very safe the way they're participating in traffic, and motorists are being a little unsafe too. While we were out there, this was really, really wild. I was actually at my site, and in August, just right down the street from the location that I was auditing, this occurred on that same day. Fortunately, this student was fine, but yeah, we're measuring helmets or no. Fortunately, this young student was wearing a helmet. They were riding to school. One of the high school students that drove actually hit the rider and knocked them down. Again, they were okay, but talk about food, like doing this in the moment and having this occur. That was pretty wild to experience. But quite a few aren't wearing their helmets, and most of them are transportation everyday riders, not our recreational riders, because our recreational riders can, afford different things, and they understand safety and concerns. So we're looking at that as well, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Out of these 13 locations, we honed in on priority locations, and this is what we want to utilize to speak to our local councils and leaders in that way to help pinpoint some stuff that we're doing. So we had 2 priority locations pop up in Cottonwood, which is our Main Street and 89A corridor, which is the main corridor coming in from Sedona, passes all the way through town and leads to other areas. Also, our Highway 260 and 89A, which is a super scary, dangerous junction with zero protection. And this is where we watched a lot of our basic transportation folks do some crazy riding and interesting things, thinking that they were safe to get to where they needed to go. So just to show you a little bit, this is part of our main report that we'll be utilizing when we talk to our council. And in locations in Clarkdale, 2 areas in Clarkdale. One was really a combination of biking and walking. And like Jared said, we started tallying everything, people walking to being on electric wheelchairs, and disseminated all that information. So we could identify that one route was more of bike and ped, and work with the town of Clarkdale to implement, possibly looking at multi-use lanes there and help them with their general plans that are going on. And again, the Clarkdale roundabout, which we know in the future that they're looking at doing some repairs to. So it was a great opportunity to help jump on and give our good research and the knowledge we got from the audit to assist them going forward in making decisions in the town, which is really cool to be a part of. And we wanted to show, as we're going to our presentations and working with other entities, kind of some areas that exist in Arizona, Tempe and Gilbert, that are really utilizing some great markings, green paint, simple white extra barrier, side barriers there. So stuff that is doable that we can bring to the attention of our local leaders via us here at the health department and through the BAC. It's better coming from the BAC members because they are our community members that are out there doing the work, and we just get to be this trusted partner and servant and liaison for this good work. So that's important to us to show what it could be, which is why I put this in here, because we're actually set to talk with our Clarkdale folks soon, and just give them a vision of like, wow, this is just the aerial of this roundabout that they're going to be doing some work on, what it could be, how we could implement some stuff and to be the leaders, in the Verde Valley to get stuff going. So it's kind of exciting. And people are seeing more and more our timing, all this work. It takes the work, and it takes a magic little bit of fairy dust sprinkled on everything, the right passion behind it. And folks really see what a built environment can do for their, especially our older population that's trying to stay active and trying to continue good health and do it in a safe way. Out of our audits, we really started to see a trend. We took, Amelia knows this, I must have sent her over 100 pieces of paper from all of our folks writing down what they learned, but we definitely want to work with our local leaders to identify great grants to jump onto that we're working on now for helmet programs, or working with our schools to promote more safety and areas. This is a shot from our Clarkdale school area downtown, and we do a bike to school days all the time, which is super fun. So we're continuing to work with education with them, and really create some awareness with community building and campaigns. We could see from the audits that we saw that both education really needs to be there for motorists and cyclists, especially our basic transportation folks, and our motorists needs to really, we're working on campaigns right now to promote some bike safety education going on in our community, which will be kind of releasing that stuff and coordinate it with the Bike Month of May. So, future outlooks for our community is really, really hitting home what that healthy built environment does for our folks living here, especially over 50, the healthier lifestyles, what it attracts to our, new residents, new community leaders that we need are in our area. So we want to highlight all of these things on connection, and just giving our people a really comprehensive overview, what additional signage can look like, new road markings, keeping people safe, helmets, and markings and all of that stuff. We are right now working on presenting to our Clarkdale Parks and Rec Commission. We have, for Bike Month of May, both the city of Cottonwood and the town of Clarkdale are strategically scheduling bike park proclamations, where we ride to the park proclamation, and then our BAC members with our assistants are going to present the audits and work that what the findings and what we want to continue to do with our great stakeholders. We also have made contact with our local Verde Valley Transportation and Planning Organization, which we've shared this information with, and our NACOG, Northern Arizona Council of Governments, excuse me. There's so many acronyms. So many things are happening right now because of this audit. And it was just, we were so fortunate to receive it. I'm so grateful to receive it, because it is really helping our community with general plans and continuing education and all of that. And so I wanted to leave you with some of the great pictures of some of our members out there doing the work. And I love Susie there on her bike. She's one of our 70+ age group members that rode everywhere and did her audit too. So thank you for that. And I'll leave you with that. And this is what our report looks like. Thank you, Amelia.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jen. That was fantastic. And we got a question in the chat about getting links to the reports, and I will say yes, assuming Jared, Jacqueline, and Jen are all okay with us sharing those, we can definitely include that in the email out to all registered attendees. So I will invite all my speakers to come back on screen, and we can have just a few minutes for Q&A. There were a few different questions about other funding sources and what this funding opportunity specifically paid for in some of your cases. So I'm curious if Jen or Jacqueline, if you guys want to share what the dollar amounts that you applied from the, because this is both a sort of in kind with the technical assistance and then some cash to help you execute the bike audits. So I'll ask you that, and then as sort of a companion to the one about other funding sources, knowing that the deadline is a week away, do you think it's realistic for folks who are just learning about this today to apply within the next week? I'd love to hear your thoughts on what a heavy lift or light lift it was.
You want to go first, Jacqueline?
You're good. You're unmuted.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
okay, no problem. For your last thing, go for it, I say. Absolutely. I will say we were lucky enough to be awarded this grant plus a flagship grant for an actual bike route. We did that with the BAC members in less than 2 weeks, and we worked our tails off, but it was amazing. So go for it. Our amounts that what we purchased, I think we were awarded right around $2,500 right in there, and we had everything from this wonderful report that we got in, all the necessary items, cones, safety stuff, all of those things for our members out there, actually at the site. So quite a few things like that came into play, and primarily we wanted to make sure that we had some really good reporting and the amount of things out to our leaders.
Yeah, I would say we use it for similar stuff like safety vests, clipboards, all those things to make people, hats for people so that they're safe out in the field. Which I liked having the hats too, because like when we were by the schools and the safety vests, it was very important that they knew that we were there for a specific purpose and that we were doing, an audit. And then, yeah, we did cones and those sort of things. We originally were going to do a bike because we thought we would use it for the riding audit. And then we switched gears and switched it into gift cards to a local bike shop as an incentive to try to get more volunteers. Because we were having a hard time pulling more volunteers. So I think those were kind of the main things. And I agree. A week, you can do it.
Yeah, I just want to also just add from the AARP side of things too. We do see the most of our applications. Remember, I told you it's like 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the deadline is. We see the bulk of our applications come in at like 4:58, 4:59, 4:50 on that day. So then it's never too late, right? So you have a whole week. And more importantly, I think from a just an inclusive and equity space, we wanted to make sure the application process was as easy as possible. So it is very much a light lift in terms of what you have to prepare, but more importantly, the narrative that you already have. You probably already have that mission, addresses, all that good place is already there. So those things are kind of easy to fill in, but we wanted to make sure it was as easy as possible. So yes, please submit your applications in.
Awesome. One other thing I know that some of the grantees purchased was actually the Smart Cycling Quick Guide, which I mentioned in one of my answers. Somebody was asking about e-bike education. And so if you are doing on-bike audits and have some education needs, thank you, Jen, holding it up. That's another potential use for the funds to make sure your riders are riding safely and confidently and all that. Good stuff. So we are at time. I know we didn't get to every single question, but we'll take a look at the ones we didn't get to and try to include any answers. And I know that there are some great resources on the AARP website about the grant and what's covered and all of that. So there might be some FAQ to help answer some of those unanswered ones. So thank you again to my wonderful speakers. I really appreciate you all sharing your stories. Thanks for your time and insights today and for sharing all your resources with everyone. So really appreciate it. And a huge thank you to AARP for continuing this project and making this work possible in all of these communities across the country. We're really excited to see what applications come in for 2025 and to work with those communities over the summer and fall. So stay tuned for another webinar like this, hopefully a year from now, and we'll have an update then. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.